What if I told you that it's possible to reduce your spend in Google Ads by 80% and only see a 20% negative impact in the conversions that you drive from your account? Is that a trade that you would be willing to make? Well, in this week's video, I'm going to share with you a process that you can see if you're actually spending too much in Google Ads. And the best part is we're actually going to be using a tool that Google provides, and we're going to be basing it off of a principle that's been in existence for over 100 years. I'm sure you've heard about the Pareto principle. It's called the 80-20 rule. The gist of the Pareto principle is that 80% of your results comes from 20% of your inputs. And so if you put this in the perspective of Google Ads, 80% of your conversions comes from 20% of your spend. Now, obviously this percentage isn't exact, but the Pareto principle has actually been in existence for close to 130 years. The guy who came up with it, his name was Alfredo Pareto, was counting the number of peas that he was growing in his garden. And he noticed that 80% of the peas that he was able to grow came from 20% of his pea pods. And so he started exploring this principle across other areas, and the math held true across multiple different areas. And there's so many other examples from a business setting, but even from a personal setting. If you think about it, 80% of your outfits probably come from 20% of what's in your closet. And so we're going to keep this video to discussing Google Ads, but this principle holds true across other areas of your online marketing. So keep this in mind as you're looking at areas like your SEO, your social media, and even your email marketing campaigns. And so if you want to save money in your Google Ads account, make sure to stick around to the end of this video, but also grab my free PPC cost cutting cheat sheet. You can get it at scottredgate.com/cheat sheet, and I'll leave a link in the description below. My goal is that you set your Google Ads account structure up so that you're not wasting money in the process. My name's Scott Redgate. I'm an online marketing coach, and let's dive in. How awesome would it be if you could spend significantly less inside of your Google Ads account and only see a small negative impact to the amount of revenue or conversions that you're driving from your account? Well, this is 100% possible. Almost every single Google Ads account that I work in could see the ability to reduce their spend. And yes, revenues would drop as a result, but they would not drop at the same percentage as your spend decrease. So in other words, let's say you decreased your spend by 50% and your overall revenue or conversions that you drive from Google Ads was only impacted by 10%. You have to ask yourself, is that a trade that you'd be willing to make? In the majority of businesses that I work with, it is 100%. They've actually already reached their Google Ads sweet spot, and the more money that they spend in their advertising is actually having a negative impact on their overall efficiency. So we're actually going to use a tool that Google provides called the Google Ads Performance Planner, and we're going to plot out different spend and revenue levels across this specific account, and we're going to see which one actually makes sense for this business. Okay, so when you are in Google Ads, underneath the tools section, then you go to planning, you'll see this option for Performance Planner, or if you're like me, you can just search for Performance Planner in this top search bar right here. And then Google actually gives you the ability to estimate your future performance based on your past performance in the account. And so I think Google created this tool to encourage advertisers to spend more money, but we're actually going to be using it for the exact opposite. We're going to see if we're able to spend less money. So once you launch the Performance Planner and you select the campaigns that you want to estimate, you're greeted with a screen that looks like this. You either have the ability to toggle for conversion value or conversion value over spend. Typically, I'll leave it on conversion value over spend. It's just a little bit easier of a representation for me to see. But what Google will allow you to do is see what your estimated revenue is at different spend levels. And so for this particular account, it's a super high profit margin product, but this account's the estimate based on the current settings is spend at 11.5 thousand would create a revenue level of $31.3 thousand. And so what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go into a spreadsheet, and I'm going to use Google Sheets, and I'm just going to plot that out. So I'm going to say $11.5 thousand for 31.3. So I'm going to come down here and I'm going to say $11,500, and the revenue estimate was 31.3. And I'm actually going to go in and create a column for return on ad spend, which is revenue divided by spend. And you can see that at its current efficiency, the return on ad spend, it's not very good in this account, but it's 272%. And so what we're going to do is we're simply going to go along this line right here, and we're going to plot out different points. And so I'll start right here where it says you could spend $389 to make $3.24 thousand. And you can see at that level, the return on ad spend is obviously better. It's 832%. But in this account, you had to sacrifice a significant amount of revenue for that ROAS impact. And so let's go on the high end here. Let's click this one right here. So this is $40.4 thousand for $75,000 in revenue. The efficiency drops even more. It goes from 272% return on ad spend to a 185% return on ad spend. So you can see the opposite ends of the spectrum here. And what I'm going to do now is I'm simply going to go back to this graph and I'm going to start plotting different points. And I'm not going to make you watch me copy and paste this, but I'll show you the end outcome when I'm done. Okay, so I just finished this exercise and I plotted out different points along the graph, and I color coded this one right here. This is their current level 11.5 for 31.3. And so I wanted to show you how revenue is impacted whether you increase or you decrease your spend level. And here's exactly what I'm talking about. So if you look at this point right here, which is $7.7 thousand, the revenue estimate that Google is providing is $29.1 thousand. And what's crazy here is if you look at this spend jump right here from 7.7 thousand to 11,500, let me subtract out the difference here. That is actually, when I do the math on it, that is an additional spend of $3,800 to get from this level, 7.7 to 11.5. Let's see how much money or revenue this account made by making that adjustment. Now, again, this is an estimate, but these numbers are actually pretty good. So in terms of the additional revenue that this account made, they only made $2,200. So in this example, this account lost a significant amount of money. They spent nearly $4,000 more to only make $2,000 more in revenue. And that doesn't even take into account the costs that they pay for their products that they're selling. So in this particular account, they would have no problem going from this tier right here to this tier right here and seeing a positive impact on their overall efficiency. Yes, revenue would go down a couple $1,000s, but they're saving more money than they would actually make in revenue. And so I challenge you to do this exact process. Go into Google Ads and start plotting out the different points on the performance planner and see, are you spending too much? Could you actually see a significant positive impact to your overall account efficiency by reducing your spend? Yes, you'll see a little bit less revenue or conversions, but are you willing to make that trade? And if you want to know what your actual Google Ads sweet spot is, I have a video entirely on that follows a similar pattern, and I'll make sure to leave a link to that in the description below.